Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Brian Austin Green visits Washington, D.C. for the world premiere of his new movie Bootyology at the D.C. Independent Film Forum tomorrow. We spoke about the new indie flick, as well as the legacy of his role in Beverly Hills 90210. Brian Austin Green, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Now we're talking because your new film, Bootyology, fun title. I knew you were gonna laugh as soon as I said it. It's going. I believe.
I just love the idea of anybody seriously saying it.
Right.
Like, let's discuss your new movie, Bootyology. You know.
Yeah. I have to say. I'm gonna let's discuss your Bootyology.
Yeah.
What inspired you to come up with the ology of a booty? No, no, we're talking because we should tell our listeners it's having its premiere at the DCIFF, the DC Independent Film Forum, on March 3rd.
March 3rd at 7:15, and then there's a Q&A following that with Spencer Yaris and Chris Lightbody, who are Six Hole and Brown Eye from the group, Joe Eddy, the director, and Ryan Richter, the producer.
I love it. And will this be the first place it's ever played? Is this the world premiere?
It is. That is the absolute world premiere. Yeah.
Awesome. That is so great. Well, before we get any further in, hit us with the premise. What's it about? I know it's like a mockumentary, like we've seen Spinal Tap and so many good ones.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, it is a mockumentary in the sense of that it is like a large part of it is for entertainment purposes, but there's a reality to it. There's truth to it. I mean, the Booty Boys existed in the early 2000s. They performed at different places in Los Angeles. They got a record deal with a label, and it turned out to be like a Ponzi scheme, and so it sort of fell apart. But they were around. I mean, they were on the scene a little bit. So it's half documentary, half mockumentary.
Okay, so there is actual it's like a documentary elements to this. It's not just people cast to play the Booty Boys. Yeah,
no. When they first approached me about it, I was like, God, I haven't heard of them. I thought the whole thing was a joke, and they were like, Oh no, it's real. They actually existed. We have in the documentary, you'll see tons of film footage of them performing in the early 2000s at different places. And then I think they're actually performing after the premiere on the 3rd. Like they'll be getting on stage and rocking a little bit. So it's fun for any fan of hip hop or that time period or any of that. It's a real fun sort of flashback to that.
Wow. So wait, so they disappeared mysteriously in like 2006, and now they're coming back to DC to perform.
Yeah. So they just got into their new lives and their new stuff, but hip hop and rap just never completely went away for them. And at one point they were like, we have enough footage and enough stuff, and we still have all of these like mixed and mastered songs. We should do something with this. And so that's when they came up with the concept for Bootyology, for this mockumentary.
So what's your role in it then? Like on screen, who are you in the film?
I'm actually playing myself. So it turns out that they talk about, I don't know if it was just in the film or if it was in real life, but one of the MCs that they really looked up to was me in the 90s. Yeah. So I come on to obviously be on camera and sort of support them, but it's a real fun mockumentary style interview. So I'm playing myself as much as you'll see there's as much me in it as you can obviously tell from watching. I mean, you can tell when I'm sort of riffing and having fun and when I'm not. But it's a great project. They're super funny guys, everybody involved. Ryan, the producer, Joe, the director, just really funny people. And so when they called me up, the company that originally reached out to me, District 78, they worked with Sharna on Dancing with the Stars. And so she had originally reached out. She had said to me, hey, they reached out to me. They want you. They're doing this this mockumentary called the Bootyology, starring the Booty Boys. And the only reason I had even really sort of heard about it and was connected to it was because of her. And then once I sat down, just the concept was so funny to me. And I'm always looking for entertainment whenever I can get it, it especially at this point in time with the current status of the world and the country. It's so divisive and so it just seems so negative. It's so fun to just kind of sit back and be able to enjoy yourself and laugh at something. And that's what Bootyology does.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. I even love the poster for it. There's this peach that looks a little bit like a rump, and then you got and then the tagline on the poster is the best. No ifs, no ands, only buts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They were smart for sure.
That's so great. That's so great. Well, while we have you on here, remind our listeners, you said the Booty Boys, knew you and loved you as an MC back in the 90s, but tell me a little bit about your journey. Cause you were born in California, right?
I was born in California. I was born in North Hollywood.
So so just remind us how you got into, acting, growing up around Hollywood. I feel like it's something that people are like, either it's like, oh, I don't want anything to do with it, or that's going to be my life. And you chose to do it. So yeah, tell us how you got into acting.
So, what's really funny about it is because my dad is a drummer professionally. And so I grew up with him touring and going to shows and doing that. So I went to all music schools when I was younger. And that was kind of my plan. Was I figured eventually I was going to be playing drums for somebody. And a kid that I rode the bus with to school for elementary school, he always had really cool toys and stuff. And I was like, man, how do you get all this stuff? I don't understand. And he's like, oh, I do commercials. And, and then my parents give me let me keep a percentage of what it is I make. And so I buy games and stuff. I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's an amazing idea.
Yeah.
I was 9. So I went home and I told my parents, like, hey, I want to be an actor. And they were like, okay, sure. That's, last week you wanted to play guitar. Come back to us in 6 months. And if it's something that you're still like really interested in pursuing, then we'll look into it further and we'll get into it. And 6 months later, I had done I was going to an elementary school on the USC campus called 32nd Street. And we used to have student directors from USC that would come over to our school and pick out kids for their graduate projects. And so I ended up doing a couple of those and I just really enjoyed it. Like I really enjoyed being on a set and sort of making something. I never saw the things when they were finished. It wasn't about that. It was just about being there and making these and being a part of that process. And up until that point, I didn't think that was something that average people could do. To me, television was this sort of magical, mystical box in place. And it was like, only certain people were on it and they were in some like meta universe, making these shows and commercials and all of that. And we were just lucky enough to see them. And at the point when I realized like, oh man, I can make commercials and do this. It really just sort of took off for me. I was, I ended up meeting with and signing with my friend's agent. I went on tons of auditions. I booked my first commercial like a year into it, just because I didn't have a complete understanding of what it was I was doing. And once I booked my first commercial, then I felt like, oh, I get this, like I can do this. And then I booked commercial after commercial after commercial. And I probably did 75 of them.
Wow. 75 commercials. Wow. And then I guess that leads to Knots Landing, right? Wasn't that your first big, of course was a Dallas spinoff.
I did Knots Landing from age 10 to 14 and a half. And I was doing that while I was doing commercials and doing a lot of stuff. And that was cool because that set was all adults. So I really had to pay attention to what was going on and really be a bit of an adult myself and take it seriously. And I learned a lot on that set. And that was my first big introduction into the world of celebrity and teen magazines at that point and all of that, because there weren't many of us. So the ones that were working and doing stuff were all over everything. And at that point, you only had like 5 or 6 teen magazines. And I was in all of them from that show because I was really the only kid on that show.
Right. And then if you thought that was a lot, then I'm sure 90210 was
right.
You were just over everything. How did the creator, Darren Star, and then producer Aaron Spelling, how did they find you? How'd they pluck you to do that? Because David Silver became iconic.
Yeah. So what I've heard since, and had heard during, was that Tori used to read a lot of teen magazines because Tori and I are the same age. And she used to see me in teen magazines from Knots Landing. So
no way.
when 90210 came around, she told her dad, like, hey, you should see this guy. Cause he's already in these and doing stuff. So I don't think I was on Darren Starr's radar because Darren hadn't really done much of anything at that point. I mean, 90210 was sort of this big project for him. And it was a big thing for Aaron because it was kind of his last go around. If it didn't succeed, he was going to bow out gracefully and, and having made a couple dozen, amazing shows at that point. So we did the pilot for it. I auditioned for it. I auditioned with Doug Emerson and a few of the other people, Ian Ziering and a couple of the other people that were on the show. And did the pilot, and then sort of the rest is history, I guess.
Well, what was so great about it really is TV history. It's funny to say that because you grew up doing it, and we all grew up watching it, and so it's weird to say the word history. But I guess looking back at you were part of TV history. What do you think made the show so special and that role? I mean, you guys tackled a lot of teen issues and that kind of stuff. But you know what? Explain to some maybe like a younger listener who they can't quite grasp what it was like pre-streaming, like TV. This was like must-watch stuff, man.
Yeah. This was a show like this, I don't think would have survived in. I know it wouldn't have survived in a time period like the current one. It really changed lives when it came out, because up until that point, there was nothing like it that had ever been on television. There was never a nighttime drama that was just for kids, starring kids, that followed their lives exactly. Like when it was spring break, we had spring break episodes on the show. When we had the fall dance, it would be the fall dance in real life. Like it was, our show followed the absolute pattern of school. And because the internet didn't exist at that point, and there was no way of real fact checking, it just forced people to sit and watch it and enjoy it, brainlessly or otherwise. And Aaron Spelling was really a genius with that. He understood that people needed that escape. And that's exactly what the show was. And it ended up being an escape for an entire decade.
It really was. I mean, in that whole time, shocking. I mean, cast members came and went, but I feel like weren't you one of the few that was there the whole run, and even on the pilot of the spinoff Melrose Place, you were on that too. Weren't you one of the ones that lasted the whole way?
I was there the whole way. Ian was there the whole way. Jenny was there. Tori was there. Luke wasn't there. Jason wasn't there the whole time. I think we were the main four that stuck it out and were there for all 10 years. way, as negative or positive as as that can be looked at. Yeah, it was an amazing run. I mean, it was really amazing to have spent my young life doing it, and then all of a sudden be on something that, we would get season pickups, not for a season. We would get like, oh, you're picked up for the next 3 seasons. And it was like, oh man, so I'm here. I have another 3 years of job security. Like I'm good. I'm just doing other stuff just because I'm passionate about it, and it's fun. I mean, that's when I really got in the studio and started getting back into my music, because I had the time and the freedom to do it. It was, I had guaranteed income, and music had never been that for me. So it bought me a lot of opportunity.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the character on the show kind of goes into music right around you're doing music in real life. It kind of mirrored itself. It was kind of fun watching that. When after that, do you sit back and watch, all these other imitations, we mentioned Melrose Place, but do you sit back and you see, every time you see a Dawson's Creek or the OC or One Tree Hill, I think you did a cameo or something, tried out for it or something, but yeah. Anyway.
I was, they were talking to me about coming and doing a season or so of One Tree Hill, but then it just didn't work out.
Okay, yeah, but my question was, when you see all these imitators, like all those shows, do you sit back and just with like a smile of pride, like, hey, we started all that?
I don't think they're imitators. I mean, we opened a door
right
with the show, but that's what people have done since the beginning of time. I mean, for the most part, original ideas are sort of, they're done. Now it's all sort of spin-offs of pre-existing concepts and ideas. And I'm happy for everyone that's had success in that genre of television, because it's not an easy one. It's a very fickle one. It's not, there are a ton of them, and there are only a few that really hit and do well, and then the rest sort of come and go. And there are a handful of them that that Spelling did after 90210, Models Inc. And there were shows where it was like it wasn't a tried and true genre. It was, you just had to have a cast that struck some sort of magical chord, and people were interested and wanted to watch. And so to everybody that made it and survived that, kudos to them. I mean, it's not, TV in general it's not an easy industry. It's not. If it was, everybody would be making television. Every network would be on top, and everybody'd be making $1 billion doing it. And and you don't know. I mean, you have big time movie stars cross over and do television shows that fail, and you just saw their name and you thought for sure, like, oh well, that's going to go for 10 years. And then when it doesn't, you're just reminded again of the reality that there is no consistent formula that works, and you jump in and do it, and you hope that you have something interesting enough for people to want to come back and watch.
Yeah.
I'm sure the same with you doing a radio show. It's like there are a million radio shows, but you do something that is different, that keeps people coming back and listening.
We're trying to. Thanks for that. But yeah, no, you're so right. It's so unpredictable. Like you can't predict. Like you said, there would be a million shows, but there was only one Beverly Hills 90210. Well, I guess, and you did a little reboot in BH 90210. So yeah, it's really hard to predict. But remind our listeners really quick, because I'm sure after that, it'd be so easy to get sort of typecast in the teen thing, but remind them of some of the other stuff you've done outside of that box, because you were Derek on the Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. That was fun.
I've done a lot of stuff. I've been really blessed with my career. I've done probably 7 or 8 like season or 2 of shows. I did Resurrection Boulevard, which was a Showtime show when 90210 ended. I did Terminator. I did Desperate Housewives. I did a show on uh, um, what was that network? Wedding Band, it was called. I've done a lot of stuff. I've worked pretty consistently. I've been really really lucky that way. I did Freddie for ABC. I did Anger Management for FX with Charlie Sheen.
Smallville.
Yeah, Smallville. I just had a little run on The Connors, which hopefully at some point soon I'll be going back to. That was a lot of fun. I've been super blessed. I can't complain at all. And even if I could, I shouldn't.
Absolutely, man. And we've seen you just sort of, I know you've been generous with your time, but just, I guess more recently, we've seen you show up in a lot of those like reality competitions like Masked Singer and Dancing with the Stars and all that kind of stuff. How fun is it that now you're at that point where your celebrity is as such where you get invited to do kind of cool little things like that?
So Masked Singer, the main reason that I had decided to do that show was because I grew up with Robin Thicke. And so I thought that would be fun to see how long I could go and how long it would take for Robin to guess it was me, which he never did. Not to say that he's not good on that show, but he's not very good. His eye for detail doesn't really exist in that format. So I did that show. And then they came to me after that and said, hey, we're going to do this Masked Dancer. Do you want to do a season of that? And so I ended up being one of the panelists on that. And then Dancing with the Stars it just sort of worked out. They had come to me for 13 seasons before that. And it had been a hard pass for me. Just because I'm an actor. I don't want to be a dancer. I'm not competitive that way. It's like, I'm not going to do this dancing show and then try and be the best dancer that's there. Like I want to pull everybody up with me and give everybody kudos for working as hard as they do. And, and create a family sort of vibe there as I do with everything. But I was and am still with Sharna. And that's, she grew up dancing. I mean, she's incredibly passionate about dancing, and she's amazing at it. And so when they approached me and they said, hey, so obviously we want to have you and Sharna paired up together, it just seemed like the right timing. There wasn't much with the pandemic. There wasn't a whole lot going on. And it was a really cool way for me to understand better her passion for something and really and do it and get it. And I left that experience having so much more respect and understanding of what she puts into it. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy space to be in. And what she has accomplished in her career is really monumental. I mean, she's one of the top female dancers in the world. And you dance with her and it becomes quickly apparent that she is. And it was a really amazing learning experience, being in a rehearsal room and then going through that with her.
Wow. And didn't you the two of you announce that you have a big announcement earlier this month, right?
Yeah. We have a baby due on the 4th of July.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. And Sharna's Australian. She was like, leave it to me to want the birth of my first child to be like a national holiday and for there to be fireworks and all of that.
It's a Yankee Doodle dandy born on the 4th of July.
Exactly. We're super excited for it. I'm just so blessed. She's going to be such an amazing mom. She already is an amazing mother to my kids now, and they love having her around. She's so great just in their lives and great in mine. And I'm so thankful and lucky to have that situation. I've had such a crazy 2 years to come out of it with such an amazing relationship and an amazing partner is just way more than I ever could have imagined. But it's amazing, sometimes one door has to close, like really for another door to open. And I feel like that's what the past 2 years with all the negatives, it was just a big catalyst for me for change and really finding who I wanted to be as a person and a parent and as a friend and as a son and all of that. And I've it's been a 180 for me, absolutely, the past few years. And she is just the absolute culmination of that. She's the pinnacle of all of it.
Well, thank you so much for generously volunteering all of that. And I make a point not to talk who's dating who and tabloid stuff, but people know your story and can look at all that up, I'm sure. But
you know what? I just tend to open up about stuff. I mean,
it's good.
There's stuff that's off limits for me that I won't get into, but stuff like that, I think it's important for people to know that life is a roller coaster, and you got to hang on and be ready for the ride, because it's going to bring you all sorts of ups and downs. And it's honestly about who you choose to be. I think who you choose to be during it, because that's the control that you have.
Absolutely. And you know what? And looking back, we would have never got you as the Transformer Bumblebee on SNL if it wasn't for that, all those ups and downs, we got to see.
That's true. Yes. that was the peak for sure.
Exactly. No, well, the peak absolutely is going to be Bootyology. I said it without laughing. Bootyology. But no, it's going to be playing at the DC IFF world premiere on March 3rd. And as Brian Austin Green said, the actual rap duo, the Booty Boys, the real LA-based group, is going to be coming and performing. So
they'll be doing a Q&A after the show, and then they'll be performing as well.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait. Seriously, man, thank you so much for joining us and opening up and talking and taking us through the career. And I mean, this was a lot of fun.
Dude, thank you, Jason. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.